We have a closer look at election hacking and the threat it poses to our democracy. The intelligence community in January reported we assess Moscow will apply lessons learned from its campaign aimed at the U.S. presidential election to future influence efforts worldwide.
Hillary Clinton's 2016 campaign manager, Robby Mook, and Mitt Romney's 2012 campaign manager, Matt Rhoades, both ran presidential campaigns targeted by foreign hackers. Together, they've started a new project with Harvard's Belfer Center called Defending Digital Democracy. It aims to shield elections from cyber attacks. They join us for an interview you'll see only on CBS This Morning. Welcome to both of you.
Morning, guys.
Thank you. Thanks.
This is really interesting. Matt, let me start with you. What do you think that the average American doesn't understand about cyber hacking and our elections?
I think after the last election, I don't think everyone understands it's a bipartisan challenge. In 2012, when I was Mitt's campaign manager, we were actually hacked in the fall of 2011, and we were told by the FBI that the Chinese had hacked into our campaign. What the problem was, and we didn't make a big to-do about it, but we had to spend precious campaign dollars to up our cybersecurity network. That was money that, when we got to actual campaign elections, the primary with Newt Gingrich and Rick Santorum, those were resources we couldn't use.
It didn't get a lot of attention. Why didn't you make a big to-do about it at the time?
It wasn't going to move the ball down the field in winning the Republican nomination. We talked about it after the election, and so it just didn't get as much coverage. And right now, you know, there's a lot of campaigns 2018 that are going to go through similar challenges and threats. They don't want to talk about it. Campaigns want to talk about the issues they're running on, not cybersecurity hacks.
You know, we use these devices to do our banking in many cases, trust our health records. But the election is about trust, national trust. Some countries, I know Estonia, you can vote online on the internet. Australia, Canada's played with this. Do you think we can ever get to a place in America where people can vote with this kind of ease?
Well, the technology will dictate that, but I think what you just hit on there, trust, is key, and this is why Matt and I are working on this together. This threat is real. You know, countries and intelligence services are going to attack our candidates. They're going to attack our election officials. We've seen the proof of concept on this. And if we don't deal with it in a bipartisan way, if we don't come together and say an attack on one is an attack on all, that trust will erode. And we can't allow passively these countries to basically become involved in our elections the way, say, a super PAC could.
Describe how cyber hacking hurt the Hillary Clinton campaign.
Well, first of all, as Matt said, it's really important to recognize that Hillary's campaign was probably the most prominent example, but this has been happening, and it's happened to both parties. What was different, and the way the threat has evolved, is they're stealing information and putting it out into the press. And as Matt said, we want candidates to get out there and talk about the issues. We want them to be heard. We want the American people to get that full debate. If we allow foreign countries to steal information and push it out there, we're not going to have that debate, and we're going to let those foreign countries decide what we're talking about. We can't do that.
And what concerns you now? What concerns you most, Matt, now when you look at future elections?
Yeah. Well, obviously, it's a bipartisan problem, and I worry not as much about the next presidential campaign in 2020. I worry about that rising star. And you can see a Barack Obama or a George W. Bush coming a mile away. And if some hacker were to go into their emails and misconstrue some exchange, you could change the course of history. And so that's what really concerns me.
What do you guys ultimately hope to accomplish, aside from a white paper that somebody could put on a shelf?
Yeah. You know, exactly. We want to do something that's tangible, that actually helps campaigns. And one thing that we're working on is putting together a document that can be shared and used by Republican campaigns and Democrat campaigns, a playbook of best practices from a cybersecurity standpoint. And you got to remember, especially down ballot campaigns, in the movies, they're portrayed as these glamorous places.
Yes.
They're not. They're usually a bunch of young kids, ragtag organizations. They all bring their laptops to work, and somebody gets assigned to be the digital director / IT director, and they have to come up with some way to secure everyone's email system.
Hey, like, Bobby, you're the guy, right?
But there's a role for the FBI in this, and there's a role for U.S. intelligence agencies. I mean, the Obama administration knew for months that Russia was trying to hack in this election. this election. It didn't come public with it until the final weeks of the campaign. Does that trouble you?
Well, I think the government has a really important role to play here, and we're certainly advocating for the government to be an active partner. But part of actually why Matt and I did this was we saw there were so many resources in the private sector to deal with this. Google, Facebook have come on board to support us. CrowdStrike, one of the leading cybersecurity companies, has come on board. They want to help. That's why it's so important that we do this in a bipartisan way. And Eric Rosenbach, who's co-directing the Belfer Center at Harvard, they've been kind enough to offer a home for this. There's a lot of resources out there. We just need to get those connected. If the government comes to, that's fantastic.
Robby, can I ask you about Hillary? I know. Let's get to the book.
Stereo.
Yeah. Well, we had a graphic made up from the book, but yeah. Go ahead.
Okay, I didn't know that part. But I know that it's made news yesterday where she was saying how troubling it was to see Donald Trump circling her. I'm wondering at that moment when the debate was over, because we all saw the video, and at the time we thought that's odd. When you guys got off the stage, did she say, I wish I would have said something? Was it a big conversation in the campaign at the time?
To be honest, Matt would appreciate this too. When you're done with those debates, sometimes it's just, oh, thank God that's over. Yeah, we thought it was strange. I've spent a lot of time thinking about what I would have done differently.
Did you think it was a missed opportunity now? If she had said what she said on the tape, back up you creep, do you think that would have made a difference?
I could argue that both ways.
Yeah,
Who knows? Who knows? But, I'm focused right now. One of my takeaways from this election is this hacking is a problem. That's why Matt and I have linked up, and we're moving forward doing this together.
The hacking doesn't have to do anything with Donald Trump circling her, Robby. I'm just wondering, at the time, did you guys go, what is happening here? What should we do?
Here's what I'll say. It was a campaign with a lot of really weird moments. And I think in another election with other candidates, it would have been looked at differently. Yeah. But there's a lot of coulda, woulda, shoulda.
So great to see a Democrat and Republican together in the wild.
Yes.
It is. Uncoerced. Robby, thanks.
Thank you very much.
Samsung's top executive in the U.S. Open.